The cannabis industry is quickly becoming one of the most lucrative markets in the country. According to research from New Frontier Data, annual projections for the cannabis industry is expected to reach $30 billion, folks. That's by the year 2025. And tonight, Ball Family Farm shows us how that could lead to generational wealth in the Black community. CEO Chris Ball and CFO Charles Ball of the Ball Family Farms is with us now to educate us on building generational wealth through cannabis. Chris and Charles, welcome to BNC.
How you doing? Thanks for having us.
Of course. So, Chris, we talk about you guys' backstory a little bit. Chris and Charles, you both have an interesting backstory. Talk about your interest in cannabis growing up in the inner city, and you both were on a mission to help your family. Chris, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, so cannabis, I got introduced to cannabis fairly on. I was about 10, and I recognized it by the funny smelling cigarettes that my dad used to smoke after dinner. So I knew what regular cigarettes smelled like because my mom smoked those, but dad's cigarettes just were a little bit smaller and they smell funny. So, fast forward to family picnics, barbecues, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, stuff like that. I would recognize the cigarette again, but, grandma was smoking it, uncles and aunts were smoking it, cousins were smoking it. So that's pretty much when I started to realize that there was something different about this cigarette. Fast forward to when I was turned about 16, I was in high school, and my cousin Earl was the neighborhood weed man. And cousin Earl was always super fresh, always had nice Jordans on and white T-shirts and stuff like that. And I kind of envied that. So I asked cousin Earl to, hook me up with my first ounce of weed. He did, and I was pretty bad at it at that time. So I decided to put it down and just focused on sports and, try to get out of high school and get to college. So when I graduated from high school, my parents told me that they couldn't afford, to send me to college. So my mom and dad, my dad had that old classic conversation, you either going to work or you're going to go to school. So I didn't want to go get a job at that point. So I decided to enroll in junior college, and I knew that I was going to have to fend for myself. Called cousin Earl back. The stakes were a little bit higher this time. I knew that I had to get this done myself, and I knew this was the only way I was going to be able to, pay my tuition, pay for my books, put gas in my car, and food in my stomach. So called cousin Earl back and asked him to, give me another ounce, and this time I made it work. So I did that, for about 2 years until eventually I got my scholarship to University of California, Berkeley. Mm-hmm. So once I got to Berkeley, I put it down. I was on a full ride scholarship, figured, I'm going to be the first kid in my family to go to college. I'm going to go to the NFL, and I'm going to live happily ever after and make millions of dollars. Well, that did not happen. Did graduate, did get some time with the 49ers, spent some time over in NFL Europe and in the CFL, which is where I got bit by the cultivation bug, Canada being the mecca of marijuana. That's the first place I saw cannabis from seed to sale. So I picked that up, started learning how to grow over there, but not really good at it. Started trafficking, cannabis from Canada into the United States. Thank God for statute of limitations. I can now talk about this freely. And made a name for myself in Los Angeles because I was picking up, weed for so cheap in Canada and then selling it in the legacy or traditional market here in Los Angeles. I was able to make a really big name for myself. In fact, I made such a big name that I attracted the attention of the federal government and was indicted by the feds in 2010. Went in, paid my debt to society, came back out, didn't touch it for about 4 years until I got off of probation. And when I got off of probation, I went right back. I bought a 14 Light Grow in Van Nuys, California, started growing from there, and started selling, my products to Prop D compliant shops, the pre-ICO dispensaries. So I did that up until 2018 till I was introduced to the social equity program, which I found out that they were giving licenses out to marijuana convicted drug felons. Went and applied, not thinking that I would get it, but sure enough, got an email and a phone call telling me that I got the license, and Ball Family Farms was born.
Wow. So, it kind of drove you to start hustling, if you will, and make it work for you all and your family. And I love how your family has pulled together to make your business truly a family-run business. How were you able to actually bring family into this business venture? And Charles, we'll start with you on that one.
So I was introduced to it right when, right before Chris got indicted. We're blood brothers, so growing up, it was kind of the same story. However, Chris was always the wild card in the family, and I was more of the stable one. So, when he did, we actually made a trip together, and it didn't pan out the way we expected it to. And so when we got back, I told him I would never go anywhere with him again. And after that, he started to talk to me about, legalization after a few years. And I'm like, okay, I always said he was the one that's going to go in and I'm the one who's going to get him out. So, I kept telling him like, no, man, I'm not really going to stick with you on this one. Like, you go ahead and do your thing. And then finally, when he was talking about legalization, I started to kind of listen to him. And on Mother's Day, we were with my mom, and he said, Chuck, I'm serious, man. If we do, if it legalizes, can you please come? And I said, man, if you're serious about this and really doing it the right way, then I'll be on board. So once we started that, I got bit with the bug by going in and just watering plants. I realized that he was serious about it, and that's how I kind of came into it as well.
So your story, or your brother's story, helped kind of change the way you all saw cannabis. I mean, at one point, like you said, many people were just being thrown in prison for it, but now you've kind of changed into something else. So talk a little bit about the fact that, we keep hearing about how Black lives will improve if we create more generational wealth. So let's talk about cannabis leading to generational wealth and why this would be such a smart move in our community.
Yeah, I really believe that, the cannabis industry has been built on the backs of people of color, so, this is not a new business. This is not a new industry. I know with it legalizing and it becoming and getting all the national attention, that everyone thinks that it's a new business, but this business has been around for the past 30, 40 years. It's the reason why I was indicted, so, and people of color have suffered from this the most, from unfair policing in our communities. They're given way more time in the prison system, just a bunch of convictions and stuff like that. So this product has basically, because of the government, ripped apart the color families, the people of color families in our community. So now it's only right that we get our fair share. I hate to bring up the 40 acres and a mule, parallel, but it's almost the same thing. If you're going to rip apart our families and our communities over this, and now that it's legal, it should not only go to the rich white or, Jewish communities. We should actually have an opportunity to participate. So, for guys like myself, it's very important that Ball Family Farm stands for that. It's very important that I step out into the forefront and say, hey, I'm not a rich white person with all this money. No, I'm a guy who was actually disenfranchised by the war on drugs. I was actually affected by it. I sat in prison for it. And now that I have my company, it's only right that I can kind of try to come up and be the voice of a community that's been, that has suffered so much, over this product and over this business.
And stay with us. We have much, much more coming from that interview in one moment. But up next, they'll explain why this lucrative business is now a smart move in bringing in more green for the Black community and how you can get started too. Britt?
And we're tracking rounds of severe thunderstorms over parts of the lower Mississippi Valley, headed into the Tennessee Valley throughout Sunday. So stay tuned. We'll have more information on this.
Welcome back with Chris and Charles Ball from the Ball Family Farms. I appreciate you guys sticking around with us to talk about this.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So we were talking about cannabis, obviously, and just some of your backstory, what you guys experience in life. Prisons across the nation are packed with Black people, as we had just mentioned, who are serving time for selling marijuana. Some states are in the process of decriminalizing it. New York, as I mentioned, just reached a deal to legalize recreational marijuana, and people over the age of 21 will now be allowed to grow it at home. A lot is actually changing. So what do you think about this? And Chris, we'll start with you first.
I think this is great. I think that the people who have been incarcerated for nonviolent, cannabis crimes should definitely be let out of prison, especially since this is now, a legal business. It has been deschedulized from a Schedule I drug in most states. So I think those guys, should be coming out of prison and should be given a chance to rehabilitate themselves and participate in the industry at this point.
And Charles, what do you think about the fact that they're making changes to where, like, even now, being able to actually grow it at home? That's a huge deal.
Yeah, it's amazing. For individuals who use it as a medicine for medical purposes, that's going to be an amazing thing that they can do now. This company is built off of exactly that. Chris was incarcerated and now he's out, and now we're able to do something great. So the fact that they're giving these opportunities, I think, is a blessing, and it's well overdue. So again, I don't even think, most people will say that this shouldn't even happen in the first place. But now that we're here, it's great that we can make some change and show that it can be possible to do great things with this.
Now, you guys touched on this a little bit earlier. You talked about social equity programs that are out there now to help communities that are disproportionately impacted by marijuana laws, like obtaining licensing. How simple or challenging is that process?
That process is extremely challenging. And right now, the social equity program, I know at least in California and especially in Los Angeles, is pretty broken. We have been able to navigate through it, but it has not been easy by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm a college grad. We both are college graduates, and the verbiage and the paperwork that went into trying to apply and obtain this license was not easy. And if it hadn't been for our COO, Ebony Anderson, who was an urban planner by trade, that if it hadn't been for her kind of walking us through and explaining that verbiage to us and navigating those waters, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Was it more difficult as Black men trying to open up a business like this?
I don't think it was a race issue, at this point, because the social equity license is for people of color. Pretty much, you had to be either incarcerated or you had to, live in a certain zip code or be in a certain or make a certain income, which was a pretty low income. So I think it was geared towards, our community and people of color. I just think that it was kind of set up for us to fail. I think it was one of those programs where it was like, okay, we gave you the opportunity, but you guys couldn't succeed at it. You couldn't navigate the waters. You couldn't understand the licensing process. So now we've run out of time, and now we have to give these licenses to these folks who understand this. So I think it was kind of set up that way because there was no, I make the parallel all the time. When I got my scholarship to Berkeley, had they just admitted me to the school and didn't give me, financial aid, didn't give me a tutor, didn't give me any kind of consulting, didn't give me priority registration, I would have flunked out of school. So the social equity program is the same way. They're giving you the license, but they're giving you no resources to be successful at it.
And also, Black people often face challenges obtaining bank financing for their businesses. What other challenges may an average person face, and what advice would you give to them to pass all of those hurdles?
I think a lot of the hurdles that you're going to come across is just simply the knowledge that comes along with a lot of these things. We, as a community, or at least where we come from, we didn't have access to know that we were supposed to go get plans done prior to build outs, or how to find electrical engineer or anything like that. So I think I do see a little bit differently. Chris said that I think just the color of our skin was the qualifier, but it's definitely not built for us to succeed. Financially, your licensing is going to be extremely expensive. The only way to succeed is by allowing, the money to come in, and we all know where the money comes from. So I think, as they continue to build on this program, they definitely need to help a little bit more, especially financially, and just giving the knowledge of this is how you do things. And I think that will take us a long way.
I also think that other Black, companies, other Black-owned cannabis companies who are having success, companies like ourselves, need to be able to kind of trailblaze and pave the way for people of color. We need to be that resource that people can call on and say, okay, Chris, okay, Chuck, you guys made it through. How do we make it through, and what do you suggest? And if we can't, we may not be able to help everybody, but at least if we can help one, each one, teach one, and if we can kind of pay it forward as a community and start to rally behind one another, well, then we can maybe create another Tulsa and Black Wall Street in the cannabis space, where that we are self-sufficient and self-reliant on one another.
I love that. And gentlemen, lastly, how rewarding has doing this been for your family? And either one of you can start first.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you like this. Mom's is okay, brother is okay, cousin is okay. The family is doing very, very well. It has been extremely, extremely rewarding for us. When I set out to do this, I didn't anticipate getting this much attention. I didn't anticipate, being the voice of cannabis for our community and social equity. I just wanted to see my family's name on a jar, and I wanted to create a business where we would be okay, financially. I wanted to pass that knowledge down. So now that we are here, and the family name is just getting more and more popular, and people are starting to recognize us and praise us and things like that. It's been a tremendous. I feel so dedicated, because I was definitely sitting in prison and everybody counted me out and everybody told me I was stupid. And now for us to be here, it's just it's surreal for me. I know that's for me. Chuck can say how he feels about it, but that's for me.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, just from where we started to where we are now, and we're not done. That's the thing that we always have to remember. And I think with this opportunity, we've kind of taken advantage of it because we're so hungry, because we don't come from better situations in a sense. And so what we've been able to do is now pass something down to our generations. And I think that's where generational wealth, the definition is being able to pass something down, maybe not necessarily pass down the business, because speaking for myself, when my son grows up, if this is not his passion, and I won't make him do that, but I can give him the opportunity to go do something that he does, that he's passionate about. So just being able to start to form that and do that has been amazing. It's a blessing, and we can't stop.
Yeah, sky's the limit. We still got so much more to do until we are, like the Nordstrom's family or the In-N-Out family. That's where my sights are, so that our kids will be able to, you like that? Yeah. Our children will have college tuitions. They will have that type of access, and we'll be able to push them in a direction and give them some knowledge and pass down some information and hopefully some wealth to them as well.
I love that, starting a legacy. Well, that is such a blessing for your family, and I'm sure you have blessed our viewers and myself. We appreciate both of your time tonight. We appreciate it. Awesome story.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, man.